And palliative care and self-protection are always what shrinking institutions end up resorting to. We could have several hours of debate about who's to blame for our situation, but I don't think that's going to move us forward the slightest step. I think we are better served when we listen for God's voice in all this and begin to focus on the opportunities. Needless to say, our present situation is enough, again, to keep this bishop up at night. But I can also tell you that despair is not what I feel, and certainly not what you should feel. Concern, but not despair. Now that we no longer have the luxury of the social power we once enjoyed, I believe in the Episcopal Church we have a real opportunity to embrace the true missionary nature of our faith. Is there anyone here who can tell me the real name of the Episcopal Church, the official corporate name? And I'll give you a hint. It's not Ye Old Historical Church.
Domestic and Foreign Missionary Society.
That's right. The official name is the Domestic and Foreign Missionary Society. Thank you, of the United States of America. Now, I think that ought to really tell us something about who we are called to be. This is what we know. In this day and age, young people, young professionals in particular, are seeking three distinct things for their lives. First, they're seeking meaningful community. If a church demonstrates powerful hospitality and a deep desire to create diverse community, then young people are going to be attracted to it. Note that the kind of hospitality I'm describing is not the same as warmly welcoming a newcomer to come and adopt our way of doing things. Rather, it's hospitality in which people are welcome to be who they are and are clearly appreciated for their own unique gifts and perspective. It's community created not from moving the outsiders in, but from the insiders moving out. The second reality that the younger generation seek is a meaningful way to live, a way that makes sense out of all the craziness of this world. In short, they are seeking the gospel message, even if they don't even know what that message is. Meaningful spiritual nurture, creative liturgy, and rich spiritual formation are paramount for these seekers. It isn't enough to just hand someone a prayer book and wax on and on about the beautiful historical traditions of the Episcopal Church, or make them new members of the altar guild. People are seeking more than that. They're seeking a way of life. And if a church community can offer them that way, then they will seek to be a part of it. And finally, the third reality is that young people will become part of a community only if that community is making a positive impact on the problems of the world. In other words, opportunities to do meaningful outreach are paramount to church involvement. People want to believe that they can make a difference in the world, that they can make the world a better place. Faith communities that are primarily inwardly focused will not offer any attraction. The simple fact of the matter is this. If your congregation is not clearly and intentionally addressing those three primary realities in its common life with all due haste and commitment, then your congregation is de-evolving. It's as simple as that. In my thinking, it's time for us to organize ourselves around a missional perspective in this crisis. The linchpin of this perspective will be intentional development of the ministry of the baptized. The increasing cost of full-time clergy in the face of diminishing economic resources means that we must be both deliberate and creative. To that end, beginning in March, the Executive Board and I will be initiating a diocesan-wide strategic planning process. The purpose of this process will be to engage you in dialogue around the challenges and opportunities that are before you. We will meet in the various regions for organized discussion. let me make this clear. The time is not to be spent discussing the policies of the national church or debating theology. Rather, it will be time to set aside for planning the future of our diocese, for forming partnerships and setting our mission priorities. The Reverend Mark Wilkinson will go into some of the details later in this council. Overall, let me tell you just how proud I am of our executive board and their willingness to enter into this strategic process. All too often in the church, we commit what our presiding bishop describes as suicide by governance. Your executive board is understanding its leadership role to be not just about governance, but also about mission. I find this very exciting. Perhaps one day in the near future, our entire system in this diocese, canons included, will be organized around missional priorities rather than just governance. I think that would be a powerful step in the right direction. There is no doubt that we face big challenges, both in the Episcopal Church at large and in the Diocese of Southern Virginia. But there is every reason to be both excited and hopeful. Why? I'll tell you why. First, this is God's church, and God is in control. And second, when I look out and see your faces, my brothers and sisters, I see the salt of the earth and the light of the world. I know that as a community, we have the gifts and the talents and the resources and the faith to do wonderful new things. It's all here in Southern Virginia. What we must find now is the will to do these things. But I am certain that we can. May God grant us the will and courage to embrace our future.